Because of her skills, hard work, she becomes one of those Hollywood actresses who, after doing only 2 films in her career, Julia Roberts becomes a millionaire. Then, in 2010, Julia makes a shocking announcement. She has converted to Hinduism. Why did she make this life-changing decision? And what role did Coretta Scott King play in shaping her journey? Almost like a mother figure, but the story takes a darker turn. How did Julia become responsible for the tragic death of her own sister? In today's video, we uncover all the twists and truths behind Julia Roberts' extraordinary life, so be sure to watch the video till the end.
Julia Fiona Roberts, a name that shines bright in Hollywood, was born on October 28, 1967 in Smyrna, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. She was the youngest of 3 children born to Betty Lou and Walter Grady Roberts. Her family background was rich and diverse: English, Scottish, Irish, Welsh, German, and Swedish roots, all blending together. While her father was a Baptist and her mother Catholic, Julia was raised in the Catholic faith. Acting seemed to run in the family's veins. Her older brother, Eric Roberts, and her sister, Lisa Roberts Gillen, both pursued acting careers, as did her niece, Emma Roberts, who today is a star in her own right. But Julia's childhood dream wasn't the silver screen. It was becoming a veterinarian. That dream, however, faded once she realized just how tough science and biology could be. Julia's parents had once been actors and playwrights themselves. Together, they co-founded the Atlanta Actors and Writers Workshop, even running a children's acting school in Decatur, Georgia. It was here that they made an extraordinary connection with the family of Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. The Roberts welcomed the King children into their program at a time when racial integration was rare in the South. In gratitude, when Julia was born and her family faced financial struggles, it was Coretta Scott King who paid her hospital bill, a little known but powerful piece of her life story. But Julia's early life wasn't all easy. Her parents' marriage ended in divorce when she was just 4. Her mother remarried, but Julia deeply disliked her stepfather, who was abusive and often unemployed. Sadly, her father passed away from cancer when Julia was only 10 years old, leaving a lasting impact on her childhood. Despite these hardships, Julia found small joys. She played the clarinet in her school band and spent her teenage years in Smyrna, Georgia, attending Campbell High School. After graduation, she decided to chase her dreams in New York City. At first, she signed with the modeling agency, but soon she was taking acting classes, the first steps toward becoming the Julia Roberts the world would one day adore. Still, her journey wasn't free of family drama. Julia's relationship with her brother, Eric Roberts, was famously strained for years. In the mid-90s, she told Rolling Stone magazine that the two weren't speaking, describing it as a private matter made worse by outside voices. Over the years, the media fueled the narrative of a feud. Though, in recent interviews, Eric has suggested there's no real bad blood, only distance. Through it all, Julia has remained close to her niece, Emma Roberts, with whom she shares a special bond. In 2014, Julia Roberts faced one of the most heartbreaking moments of her life. Her half-sister, Nancy Motes, tragically died by suicide at just 37 years old. In a note she left behind, Nancy expressed pain that pointed toward her struggles with family and even mentioned Julia as a source of her depression. The two had reportedly shared a complicated relationship for years. Nancy herself once opened up about feeling bullied over her weight during childhood, and in the months before her passing, she voiced her frustrations on social media with posts that many believed were aimed at Julia. At first, Julia stayed silent. The loss was raw, personal, and deeply painful. But later, she opened up in an interview with the Wall Street Journal. Reflecting on the tragedy, Julia said, "You don't want anything bad to happen to anyone, but there are so many tragic, painful, inexplicable things in the world. But as with any situation of challenge and despair, we must find a way as a family." When May came around, Julia reportedly delivered a eulogy at Nancy's memorial. Accounts of that day vary. Some claimed her words felt harsh, while others insisted she spoke with grace and kindness. Regardless of what was said, it was undeniably one of the most difficult chapters in Julia's life. Julia Roberts wasn't just your average teen. She was stunning, even in those awkward high school years. She graduated from Campbell High in 1985, and only a few years later, she would light up the screen in Mystic Pizza. But getting there wasn't easy. When Julia moved to New York at just 17, it was a massive culture shock. Coming from Smyrna, Georgia, the city felt too big, too fast, and way too lonely. She admitted in an interview, "I would get on the phone with my mom crying, saying, I want to come home." And what did her mom tell her? "You stay right where you are. You work this out." That tough love kept Julia pushing forward. Now here's where fate stepped in. Julia wasn't even chasing Hollywood dreams at first. In fact, her sister Lisa was the one who wanted to be an actress. Julia, she was selling running shoes, joking that she was really good at lacing them fast. But one day, while walking down the street with her brother Eric and his girlfriend, they bumped into someone Eric knew. That person, a talent agent. And just like that, Julia's path to stardom began. Soon after, she was booking roles on TV shows like Crime Story and Miami Vice. Then came the breakout, Mystic Pizza in 1988, followed by Steel Magnolias in 1989. When you think of Julia Roberts, chances are one film instantly comes to mind. Pretty Woman. Released in 1990, this romantic comedy became one of the most iconic roles of her career. Roberts played Vivian, a sex worker who finds herself swept into an unlikely love story with Richard Gere's character Edward. The chemistry was undeniable, the story unforgettable, and it catapulted Julia Roberts into superstardom. But as Roberts herself admitted in a 2019 interview with The Guardian, "I don't really think you can make that movie now, right? So many things you could poke a hole in." Critics have since pointed out its dated portrayal of sex workers and the fairy tale idea that every woman in the industry is just waiting for a wealthy man to rescue her. And yet, despite the criticism, the film showcased Roberts' undeniable talent and changed the course of her life forever. Reflecting on how she landed the part, Roberts said, "It really is not a measure of talent, particularly in the beginning. It's a measure of good fortune and being able to have your wits about you enough to make something out of that good fortune." From there, Julia Roberts' career only grew bigger. With her radiant smile and effortless charm, Hollywood quickly crowned her America's sweetheart. But interestingly, Roberts never fully embraced that title. In a 2003 conversation with Oprah, she admitted that she somehow thought it meant I was tiny. Doesn't the word sweetheart sound so sweet and tiny? When Oprah asked how she felt about actresses like Reese Witherspoon being called the new America's sweetheart, Roberts responded with refreshing honesty. "Somebody else is always going to be the next sweetheart. It's all contrivant. Label them as fast as you can so you can keep them all straight." A while ago, when Sandra Bullock was first making movies, the press started this whole rivalry between us. She was supposed to be the next sweetheart. Clearly, Julia never let the label define her. She understood how fickle Hollywood be, and she focused instead on the work. And the fans, they never stopped loving her. Of course, not everyone was convinced of Roberts' magic at the start. After her breakout in Steel Magnolias in 1989 and then Pretty Woman in 1990, one crew member even confessed to her years later, "I just thought Pretty Woman sucked. I thought, who's this girl that's coming in to play this role? She sucked." But Julia Roberts proved the doubters wrong. Her natural charisma, emotional depth, and star power made her unforgettable. By the time she attended her very first Golden Globes in 1990, she may have been a newcomer, even wearing a simple store-bought Giorgio Armani suit she picked out herself. But she was already on her way to becoming one of the most beloved and bankable stars in Hollywood history. In 1991, Julia Roberts took on a magical role, playing the feisty fairy Tinkerbell in Steven Spielberg's Hook. With her short pixie cut and playful energy, she lit up the screen. But behind the wings and fairy dust, something else was brewing. Rumors of diva-like behavior swirled. Whispers of disagreements on set began to steal the spotlight. And when director Steven Spielberg was asked about the tension, his silence only fueled the fire. Julia herself later admitted it was one of the hardest lessons of her career. In an interview with Vanity Fair, she said, "Hand to God, not a thing I read about that was truthful, and it really hurt my feelings. It made me sound mean. I couldn't believe that someone I trusted actually hesitated to come to my defense. That feeling of betrayal stuck with her, and things didn't get much easier. By 1994, Julia was back in another film, I Love Trouble, starring opposite Nick Nolte. But Trouble was more than just a title. Julia later described the movie bluntly, calling it a piece of shit. Her rocky relationship with Nolte was no secret either. Once again, the work seemed to be overshadowed by the headlines. All of this pressure took a toll. Julia confessed that fame had turned her everyday life into open season for the press. She recalled being followed constantly, even once watching 3 men leap out of a hedge just to get a glimpse of her. By then, she knew she needed a break, but stepping away didn't stop the tabloids. Rumors labeled her with every ugly headline imaginable. Drug addicted, alcoholic, anorexic, you name it. As Julia put it, the press always needed something to say between the she's through period and the she's back period. And oh, was she back. In 1999, Julia returned to what she did best, romantic comedies. She charmed the world alongside Hugh Grant in Notting Hill. But even that film wasn't free from the chaos of her fame. Hugh Grant recalled shooting scenes with extras pretending to be paparazzi, only for the real paparazzi to show up and swarm the set. It was life imitating art in the most surreal way. In 2000, Roberts shocked the world when she became the first actress ever to command a $20 million paycheck. The film, Erin Brockovich, a gritty, true story about an ordinary woman who dared to take on a corporate giant. On screen, Roberts was magnetic. She was fierce, vulnerable, and unapologetically human. Critics were floored. Rolling Stone praised her ability to capture the emotional toll of Erin's fight, while Entertainment Weekly described her performance as a rare mix of sparkle and melancholy. Audiences couldn't get enough. The film grossed more than $256 million worldwide and earned Julia the ultimate prize, the Academy Award for Best Actress. But her success didn't stop there. That same year, Roberts became the first actress ever to appear on the Hollywood Reporter's list of the 50 most influential women in show business. And behind the scenes, her own company, Shoelace Productions, was striking deals that proved she wasn't just a star, she was a force. Then came 2003, and another record-shattering moment. Roberts made headlines once again, this time with a $25 million paycheck, the highest salary ever earned by an actress at the time, for Mona Lisa's Smile. Playing a progressive art history professor at Wellesley College, she carried the film to box office success, pulling in over $141 million, even as critics called it predictable and safe. And Roberts wasn't afraid to take risks. In 2004, she joined an all-star cast in Mike Nichols' Closer, stepping into a tangled web of love and betrayal alongside Jude Law, Natalie Portman, and Clive Owen. That same year, she returned as Tess Ocean in Ocean's 12 with a playful twist. In one unforgettable sequence, Robert's character pretends to be Julia Roberts. It was bold, it was unconventional, and it worked. The film pulled in a massive $363 million worldwide. By 2005, Roberts was everywhere. She even made her first ever music video appearance, starring in the Dave Matthews Band's Dreamgirl. And as the years rolled on, she kept topping the Hollywood Reporter's list of highest paid actresses year after year from 2002 through 2005. Julia Roberts wasn't just breaking records. She was rewriting what it meant to be a woman in Hollywood. Powerful, bankable, and undeniably unforgettable. It all began in the late 80s. At just 19, Julia reportedly dated actor Liam Neeson. She was 19. Roberts filmed her second ever film, Satisfaction. While filming, she fell for a much older man, 35-year-old Liam Neeson. In spite of the 16-year age gap between them, the two reportedly got serious and moved in together in Venice, California, sparking her first big Hollywood romance. Not long after, she fell for co-star Dylan McDermott on Steel Magnolias. They even got engaged, but Julia's heart wasn't finished wandering. While filming Flatliners in 1990, she fell in love with her co-star Kiefer Sutherland, despite him being married at the time. Soon, Julia and Kiefer were engaged, with a star-studded wedding planned for June 1991. But just days before the big day, Julia stunned the world. She called it off. To make things messier, she was spotted flying to Ireland with with Kiefer's best friend, actor Jason Patric. The tabloids went wild. Julia Roberts, America's sweetheart, had become America's runaway bride. Over time, everyone involved insisted this story wasn't as scandalous as it looked, but the damage was done. Julia's reputation as unpredictable in love was cemented. In 1993, Julia shocked fans again, marrying country singer Lyle Lovett just weeks after they started dating. Their marriage lasted less than 2 years, but Julia later insisted it was a miscalculation, not a mistake. The rest of the 90s brought a string of shorter romances: a brief fling with Friends star Matthew Perry, a rumored spark with Daniel Day-Lewis, and a relationship with celebrity trainer Pat Minocchia. But her most serious love at the time was actor Benjamin Bratt. For 4 years, Julia and Bratt seemed inseparable, even gushing about each other on talk shows. But by 2001, it was over. That same year, Julia met cameraman Danny Moder on the set of The Mexican. There was one big problem. She was still dating Bratt and Moder was married. Their romance sparked controversy, especially when Julia was photographed wearing a t-shirt that read "Alo Vera," a pointed dig at Moder's wife. The media branded Julia a homewrecker, but Julia stood her ground and the love endured. Danny divorced, and in 2002, he and Julia married in a private ceremony at her ranch in New Mexico. Unlike her past relationships, this one stuck. Julia and Danny welcomed twins Hazel and Phineas in 2004 and son Henry in 2007. More than 20 years later, their marriage is still rock solid. Julia has called Danny her favorite human, keeping every love letter he ever wrote her, and says their secret is simple: lots of making out. Julia Roberts' love life has been as dramatic as any Hollywood movie. Runaway weddings, whirlwind romances, scandals, and heartbreak. But in the end, the runaway bride finally stopped running. She found her true leading man not on screen, but behind the camera. And together, they've written the greatest script of all, a real-life love story built to last. At home, she's simply a wife, a mom, and someone deeply committed to her family. Have built a life together that's centered far away from the flashing cameras of Los Angeles. In a rare glimpse into her private world, Roberts once told CBS's Sunday Morning that when she isn't working, her full-time job is being a homemaker. She admitted it isn't always rainbows and kittens, but that the role brings her a deep sense of joy. One of her sweetest routines? Sharing breakfast with Henry, her youngest, who she lovingly calls her breakfast partner. What stands out most in her interviews is how fiercely she values her role as a mother. For Julia, success isn't measured in box office numbers or awards. It's in the life she's created with her family. She put it best when she said, "The point is to come home at the end of the day triumphantly to them." But balancing stardom and motherhood hasn't always been easy. Roberts admits that stepping onto a film set often means stepping away from her children, something she struggled with over the years. Still, she believes it's important for her kids to see her passion for storytelling, to understand that her work is more than fame. It's creativity and meaning. In fact, during a 2022 interview with the New York Times, Roberts explained that for much of her children's younger years, her presence at home was so constant, they barely noticed when she was gone. And when she does step away to work, it's with the intention of showing her children that pursuing creativity is worthwhile, even if it comes with sacrifices. At the heart of it all, Julia Roberts isn't just a Hollywood icon. She's a mom who's built her world around family. And while the world may continue to see her as one of the greatest actresses of her generation, her proudest role will always be the one she plays at home.
Many people don't know is that this Academy Award-winning actress found her spiritual home far away from Hollywood within Hinduism. Back in 2010, Julia openly shared her faith, saying her choice was not a religious gimmick, but a deeply personal path to peace and tranquility. She even compared her spiritual journey to the character Patsy in Somerset Maugham's The Razor's Edge, someone searching for inner calm and meaning. Julia grew up with a Catholic mother and a Baptist father, but something changed when she first saw an
an image of the Hindu deity Hanuman, along with teachings of Neem Karoli Baba. Even though she never met the saint, who had passed away decades earlier, his wisdom resonated with her. Soon, Julia and her entire family began visiting temples together, chanting, praying, and celebrating Hindu traditions. As she put it herself, "I'm definitely a practicing Hindu." Her connection to India grew even deeper in 2009 when she came to Haryana to film Eat, Pray, Love inside a traditional ashram. Around the same time, she was often seen wearing a bindi, practicing yoga, and even naming her production company Red Om Films, a nod to the sacred Hindu syllable Om. Reports even suggested she considered adopting a child from India, and her kids once shaved their heads during a temple visit. Spiritual leaders also took note of her devotion. Hindu statesman Rajan Zed praised her journey, encouraging her to dive even deeper into meditation. Quoting the Upanishads, he reminded her that true happiness lies within and that worldly life flows like a river back to the divine. Julia herself has expressed this beautifully. She once said she's fascinated by the multi-dimensional nature of Hinduism, that its spirituality goes beyond religion, touching on love, peace, and eternity. In fact, during Diwali, she called the festival universal, comparing it to Christmas as a celebration of light, goodness, and the triumph over evil. For Julia Roberts, Hinduism is not just faith, it's a way of life, one that inspires her creativity and keeps her drawing back to India, the land she now calls sacred. In 2010, Roberts entered her 40s with a bold new style, rocking a gorgeous ombre look that proved you don't need to be in your 20s to reinvent yourself. Instead of chasing trends, she owned her age, showing fans that beauty is about confidence, not competition. And speaking of competition, Julia has never been interested in it. When asked about Jennifer Lawrence, Hollywood's new America's sweetheart at the time, Roberts responded with nothing but warmth. On Good Morning America, she praised Lawrence as, quote, "a young, fabulous, talented whippersnapper," and said she loved that Jennifer was shaking things up. That kind of humility is rare in Hollywood. But here's what's even more powerful. While the industry can be brutally unforgiving toward women as they age, Roberts hasn't just survived, she's thrived. She told The Oklahoman, "With age comes more complexity of possible parts." In other words, getting older has actually opened more doors in her career, not fewer. And when she turned 50 in 2017, Julia didn't waste time looking back. The night before the milestone birthday, she told Harper's Bazaar, "Too much thinking and pondering. It's exhausting because we're still moving forward, aren't we?" To Roberts, growing older isn't something to fear. It's something to celebrate. She even told inews.co.uk that she was proud and happy to turn 50 and never understood why people made such a fuss about it. Julia Roberts is living proof that age is not a limitation. She's as radiant, confident, and in demand as ever. And maybe that's her secret. She's not chasing the past. She's too busy enjoying the present and excited for the future. What's your favorite Julia Roberts movie? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, share it with fellow movie lovers, and subscribe for more inspiring celebrity biographies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.